Jeff, are you able to hear me at all? Oh, okay. Awesome. On my thing it was showing, yes, it was showing that I didn't have the mic on, but it's on. So, okay, perfect. Sounds good.
That's better. I think we're live now. You okay with waiting for another 2 minutes and 10 seconds here?
We sure are.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're in no hurry.
No.
For those listening in at home, we're waiting for one more board member to arrive here.
So what district are you?
3.
3. And you got
District 1.
1. And Robin, is she on the?
No.
Okay.
It's not.
Kayla's got 5.
So we're missing one. I mean, one that's not going to be on tonight.
Yeah, the only board member not going to be present is going to be Robin Sunster.
Oh, okay.
So I must be in 5 then. Who's got the golf course?
I think Robbins falls under the golf course. Because I'm like I'm the line before that.
Yeah. What road is that going across? I can't tell on this map.
Like by the golf course?
Yeah. No, that's the golf course, like Oak Harbor Drive and all that, but there's a road that goes east-west where your line is on the 4-5 line.
That's 28th Street or 30. Yeah.
It's County Road 32, I thought was this one.
I was going to say, ask the law enforcement. They're good at road numbers.
This is the road that goes into the golf course. I think that's my house there.
So the one south of that is the campground?
No, the campground would be north of that.
Okay, the campground's 28.
So then
So
maybe,
then-
so it might be the line. Huh. I'm really close. Well, here. It's just not a Google Earth map this way.
No, we'll see how wrong I am.
Yeah, I was just gonna pull up Google Maps.
But you're just off County Road 33.
Yeah, mine is, you know where Ship's Wheel is?
Yeah.
I'm right across the creek from Ship's Wheel on the north side of the creek. So, you know, there's that road that comes in the golf course, you gotta come around. I'm on the dead end. Yeah, I'm right across from Eddie and Dolores. And Al, their son, is who I'm talking about. He was my roommate in college.
Anyway.
Oh, I think we were all clear on that, but we decided to just give you a little bit more time and wait.
That's fine.
I
think it was if we were gonna be 10, 15, 20, we would just start.
Boyd Johnson.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
see a void.
No problem.
Oh,
Now I think everyone that's present that plans on being present.
Everyone's here. Who's here?
Everyone except for Robin. So
He's like,
Traveling, so I'm sure she's got a reception. So, we'll just turn it over to us, Gary and Tracy, and
yeah,
we just do some introductions here.
yeah, that's probably good. There's some new faces, so. Thanks for having us. I'm Tracy Pogue from Cross Anderson. Live in Bemidji, but I'm here just as much, just about, so. But that's near and dear to my heart. I guess KA has been doing things at the school for quite a few years. We did the arena and a lot of different projects in and around Baudette. And was working with another client here, and I just looked, we did 131 projects on Highway 11 in the last 11 years. So it's not something that we're not used to. Gary?
Gary Benson, and yeah, I go back a couple of decades ago working here at Lake of the Woods School, so some of your newer stuff, and I work all over the state. I'm based out of the Twin Cities headquarters, but I'm on the road quite a bit, so working with K-12s, and basically what happened to you guys November 5th happened to a lot of districts that date, for talk about reasons for that, but also we worked with a lot of districts that have met with defeat and still have the issues staring at them, and finding a way to go back out to the voters and get support and take care of their needs. So we reached out to Jeff in December. Tracy and I came up and met with Jeff and a couple board members then and talked about your situation, about what KA could bring to maybe a fresh look at planning. And then we met again at MSBA with you and with Jeff, and set up this meeting for the 20th, this workshop setting, to just sit in kind of an informal setting and have roundtable discussion with you, with all of you, about what are some of your thoughts, what have you heard, and what's your appetite, if you will, for moving forward. And maybe if I could just start in, it'll help us as much as anything if I can start us with some background stuff, because I've read all the background reports, surveys, view and comment, gotten familiar with it. But even though we weren't part of developing that, I just kind of want to confirm some stuff, and probably good for you and certainly new board members to revisit that again and find out what led to November 5th. So we put together this little outline for discussion, if you will, or agenda, and starting with the background to the November 5th referendum vote, how we got here. You know, you did a very good job commissioning an engineering study about your facilities, and I thought the needs listed there were very, there wasn't anything excessive. They were very obvious parts that wear out, boilers and HVAC and those kinds of things that really needed roofs and things like that. Some site issues as well. So that seemed to be clearly laid out. I'm just saying you did good job of your homework. And then you had Ehlers, your financial advisor, talk to you about different ways to fund work, whether it's for student learning needs or whether it's for building and facility needs. And, because you looked at that's another one of your complications with the vote, is the two questions and the two different types of funding. It's tricky messaging to get to the voters with that. But we'll get to that in a minute. And then obviously some operational needs that focused mainly on student learning, and it looked like school bus transportation needs that are coming due. So I thought you had a very good organized analysis of what it is you needed to try to accomplish. The budgeting was there, the review and comment to the Department of Ed. They agreed with it. It met their scrutiny. And then before that, obviously, you used the survey from the Donovan Group to go out to your public and test these things and say to the public, do you agree that these needs are valid, and, or what's your priority on them? And then, in addition to whether you agree on them or not, how large of a grocery bag would you support dollar-wise for us to put items in the grocery sack? That's your tax tolerance as a voter. And we fully believe in the survey guidance for a referendum, which you did that as well. Now, the survey did point out some issues that they thought were going to be issues from responses that they got. So you did have a few landmines out there that probably reached out and grabbed you on election day. But anyway, as it was, if you recall, you went out with two different questions, one totaling about $4 million in levy amounts and one $5 million in bond. Neither of the questions got anywhere near 50% support. I think 42% was the highest one of them got. So that's a problem. I don't know whether, I saw a lot of the campaign stuff that Jeff helped put out, and it looked like you are constantly feeding the public. What I don't know, and I never have asked Jeff, did you have a citizen advocacy campaign or not, like a Vote Yes group, or was it all district campaign? And okay, because I didn't see that. I didn't see really evidence of that. So basically that's where you got to what you went out for the vote for, and I know it's repetitious to you, but it's new to us. I don't know if I'm missing anything. So then our question is, well, what happened on November 5th when the vote came back like that? And, one of the things I'd like to get in this group is some discussion about any local conversation and feedback. What have you heard since then out on the street or at the store or wherever about, because I know you haven't done a formal survey or post-mortem, if you will, but, what are some things you're hearing? And the survey did allude to some disconnects. I'm going to read right from the Donovan survey. There's kind of a bad and a good. They came out and said their problem areas are going to be some concerns about past fiscal mismanagement and lack of some confidence in the district leadership and the school board, and proposed use of the funds, and how the money would get spent, and then of course good old opposition to increasing taxes. We're always going to have that, but you did go out, like so many districts found, the buzzsaw of the presidential election, this one in particular, brought out every conservative voter in America, and to have a question on there about raising taxes probably wasn't good timing, because voters seem to be, and this isn't Lake of the Woods only, this is everywhere that we studied, the focus was more on the national elections and not on the local needs as much as if you went out on your own for this same type of thing, and the focus would be all on the school, and it'd be a lot different messaging in our mind. But one thing that the survey said that was very positive, they said 80% plus of all respondents, and then their comparison group was 67%, strongly agree that district's building and facility maintenance needs must be addressed now. So you've got strong support about, yes, we need to do something. People aren't saying, I don't believe it, just put some duct tape on it. They get it. Their furnaces break down at home. These kinds of things usually sail through unless the tax impact is extraordinary, or, and I'm quoting from experts because we study this all the time. They always say, if you're within the cost range you're in and the ask is reasonable, unless there's some disconnect with the district, it should sail through. Well, bingo, that's one of your issues, which you know better than I do in this room, and that's one of the things we have to think about, how to work around that if you go back out again, and when. So, but I do say in my outline, the community expects you to come back, so it isn't like you don't take this loss and then go and sit on it and don't do something. I think the word's out that you've got these needs, but you've got to come back in a way that has a fresh message to it. And as I put in here, I think you have to literally connect the dots that we want this amount of money is going to go and it's going to fix this, and we're going to be transparent about it. And too many times, if you don't do it that literally, taxpayers think, well, we're going to give you this big blob of money. How do we know you're going to do the right thing with it and not just take that blob? We know you'll spend it, but you know, if they can connect this $500,000 to this boiler replacement and see it happen, it becomes more real for them because they believe in the boiler being at its end of life age. So I think that's a big thing. I also talk about, I think you have to personalize the message, maybe make some themes. I know safety and security is woven into this. That's always a good theme, still is for schools. Teaching and learning is a good theme, and you've got some of that in there too, but to actually, you know, how you kind of display these exciting advertisements, if you will, which is something that our referendum group can help with. They're very good at messaging and getting the attention of the public and focused on the right components. So you can connect the dots. I think that would go a long way in it as well. Now, I think you might also, just because knowing human nature, if possible, probably lower the amount or reshuffle the deck a little bit. That's what we had to do in Marshall County. They went the first time for what, 24 million and failed. We helped them reshuffle the deck, and they went back for about 18, was it? And
almost 20,
yeah,
rounded off
almost
to 20. It was about a 20% reduction, and
but
we talked about
you know,
that.
yeah, they squished some stuff down or went without. Now, you know, that's something you might have to look at, and that happened in Red Rock Central too. So if they see you're going the right direction, that happened in Redwood Falls. In fact, Redwood Falls, we went back. What was a good thing there is when we went back out the second time, we even had a feature on You Spoke, We Listened. So these are the things you told us you didn't like about the first time around. Here's what we did to fix it, to show that we listened to the public this time around. So that's a good kind of message to be able to generate. Anyone want to butt in and give my voice a rest? Or, I mean, am I saying the right stuff? Or?
Yeah, a couple questions I have. As far as some of the other districts where their referendums didn't pass, are you also working with some of them? And some of those numbers, like in that survey where you have ours came back originally as 80% or a little bit better than that, I think. Strongly felt there was a need for the increased funding, but then, you know, we struggled to get 40% of the votes. The other districts, are they kind of matching those numbers that you're seeing, or is ours an outlier with those numbers, or, I mean, how are we reflecting compared to them?
I think it's all, I hate to cop out with this answer, but it really does vary by district. In Marshall County, I think it was dollars, and they probably cut deeper than they needed to, but they had a they had a board member who wanted to try to get closer to 16 million, not really through a rational way, but more of a knee-jerk reaction, and like Tracy said, it ended up being almost 20 million. But it was clearly a reduction. Redwood Falls didn't change much in the total, but they found there were some scope issues in there there was some athletic stuff mixed in that they took out, and that definitely helped to take that out of, because this was a new elementary school, and they were trying to do some football field stuff in there too, but you know, the voters see that.
Do you mind if I
Yeah.
I think we had a level of confusion with that because it wasn't on the ballot, but it had been listed previously about the athletic field and things like that. And it's amazing what people keyed on. They didn't key on what was actually on the ballot. They
Becomes the bar talk, you know? I'm not.
Those are the lightning
Did you hear they
rods.
want to do this? And it's
Athletics.
not even close.
Yep.
You're
So-
speaking
That's the messaging.
more specifically about the track, right?
The track.
Because I think the track,
Track of the football field,
Yep.
and that's a lot of the messaging that I
Yeah.
received too, is that was the focal point of that, which goes right along with, here's the money that we need to replace the roof or to fix the roof or whatever it might be, and that's what it's gonna go for. And making sure that the public understands that we not only have a new school board, well, a lot of
I
new
got a
school
couple
board,
more of
we have
these.
school
You can
members too, which is
keep
great.
those. There's
You know,
samples.
in that those things that were like landmines, lack of school board trust, we're working on that. I don't know if the increasing the taxes was ever mentioned to me. And
I've
people
heard it
that
from a few
I've
people.
heard it from a few people, but not as much as where's the money going and what are you gonna do with it?
Yeah.
Right.
You know, how do we lay that out, prove to the public that this is what we need and what we're gonna do, and then show them that.
Right. There's an
Yep.
old
Connect
adage.
the dots.
Yep.
Yep,
There's an old
like you were
adage,
saying.
the definition of a sale
Mhm.
is when value exceeds expectation.
Yeah.
And that did not happen. We didn't build enough value in that, whatever that voters, when they mark yes or no, we just didn't have enough value there. As soon as they do connect the dots and they go, I can see where my money's going, my tax impact is $4.22 a month, I can swing this.
Yeah.
That's where we gotta get. Something super
I just-
simple.
Could I add
Dots.
something too? I don't know if anyone, can you guys hear me okay?
We got you.
Okay, just one addition to, I had a couple, I wasn't even on the school board at the time. I was on the same ballot, so I did have like some people call me. But, what's the, like, control we have over how it's worded on the ballot? Is that something that is like something we control? I know that I had questions of like, what does this mean? Where is this going? And I know that also comes down to the education aspect too of like spreading the word, but just so it's very clear, because it can get wordy and confusing on a ballot. And I understand that some of that is obviously required, but I was just curious on that aspect of it.
The problem is the ballot wording is very much legalese and driven by what the attorneys know they have to put in there legally on the question that you stand and look at in the polls. And you can't you can't sway it with other types of information, adjectives, but that's what the campaign weeks are all
Yeah.
about, and the messaging
Yep.
you're putting out or the advocacy group, that's where you
Yep.
can, show people more.
Like, here's the question and what that question will do
Yeah,
okay, thank you.
yep, and you'd want to do that for sure.
Gary, when it goes back out for round 2 or round 3, does the Department of Ed or a round 2 of review and comment have to happen?
Yeah,
Yeah. So you want to go over that process? Because that might help that question.
well, there's, that was the other thing. If you were to go back out, how soon? Well, to do the review and comment, and I know Ehlers gave you that kind of list of legal dates, but even if you wait and go next November, you have to submit the review and comment to MDE by June 17th coming up. If you were to try to go in primary in August on the 12th, which is the other date available to you, you'd have to be submitting this review and comment by March 25th already. That's a month from now.
We also have to
I doubt you're ready for that unless,
I think the soonest we'd want to run it would be November.
Because of the
We're running a
special, right?
District 6.
Yeah. So with a November, earliest November, what's the date with?
June 17th.
June 17th.
yeah.
And then you back that up with all the prep work that you have to get to submit by June 17th.
And
Most of that prep work should just be a duplicate of whatever happened, right?
It is, but it can be some
I do have a
strategy,
chart
right?
for that.
the scope of the review and comments can be much less.
Yeah.
Last handout, I promise.
Can you talk about the strategy of preparing the review and comment round 2?
Well, yeah, I mean, you've got a solid basis from round 1, but we would update that. I've already talked to the Department of Ed about it, Chris Kubish, and frankly, he was surprised it didn't pass, so, but he didn't have all the history that you guys have lived with here that we've got to work our way around with messaging. But that, we could, get going on as soon as we,
Because we do have a
No
specific
scope.
list of the projects that we want to go on. We could just, that's the thing we do in comment, we have to focus on. Football field, track, and some of those other things that we took off the ballot. People read through the review and comment.
Right.
I think maybe that's why some of the extra stuff that goes in there, because we had to submit a review and comment before the board had really narrowed down, this is what we're going to pass. So that fits that was over 7 million.
the two questions is also
Yeah.
problematic. It's hard for voters,
And I think
they
it's
wonder
important
why
that
there's two.
the
And
board
then,
looks at,
and they're two different animals of funding, so,
well, the capital projects, if we go out for the technology and bus, that can be combined into one is my understanding. And I think when we originally worked on this, the rationale was to pull them apart. And, for sure we wanted the building bond was that top priority. So that's kind of the rationale, but I think it added more confusion, because the capital project question was longer than the bond question and had a lot of stuff, so.
The dot connecting messaging has to be crystal clear. It just, it's like some people are very visual, and then you can have some text underneath, but I just picture a yellow brick road. How do we get from here to here, and what happens along the way if I give you a yes vote, here's where my money's going. That's what they just need to understand how simple that is. Keep it really simple. And whether it's 20 million or 1 million or 400,000, you still have to do the same exact thing. Going back,
but the problem with, I can see the two questions, the two different fundings, because nobody wants to, you don't want to buy technology with a 20-year bond that is out of date before you've ever paid it off. That doesn't make sense. So you do want to buy that with some sort of levy money. It's just, again, more messaging.
right. Going back to Gary asked that question, what happened on what are some local conversations that and feedback that you've heard since election?
I think it goes
I
back.
can, is it, just let me know. Okay, I can just speak from, the area that I'm in. My district is a lot of like the resorts and seasonal, a lot of seasonal people, and just kind of like a different makeup. It's not like town or anything. And I had just like asked my parents, because they also live in the same area. I had asked them like, what do you remember from like getting information on it? And it was something where they're like supportive and stuff, but they just like didn't recall getting much information on it. So I think it's really like a lot of the feedback was just like how much information, like I know I got a flyer in the mail, and I coach at the school too, so like I understand it was going on being involved in the school, but I'm just thinking of like my parents who don't have kids in school anymore and like aren't connected in that way. Like how are those people getting the messaging accurately? And I can understand that mail helps, but also it's like another thing. It's just like another piece of mail. And also like figuring out the people that like aren't on social media or not following the school page. I think it's a different connection. Jeff, could you remind me when was our last referendum? Or if any, right, was
A
it?
few bonds, there's
Yeah.
one in 2000.
Because I remember like when we were younger, all three, me and my sisters were all in school, like my parents had like the sign in the yard, and it was like a bit, like I remember like the vote yes signs, and things like that.
Yeah.
And again, it's just like something you didn't see around this time, and I know like I had been approached to like, and it was during the fall, so when I was coaching, so a couple months to election day, about like, oh, do you want to like buy a button? And it was like independent people doing it, but I just think of how much more push and getting the word out there could be, just from my perspective. I'm sure like other board members would have different perspectives. But that's just me as like I was just a resident of the county at the time that it happened. And obviously you have a different perspective when you're in the weeds. So
Would have been prior.
just wanted to share that.
Yeah,
She's
it was
talking about when Steve Weimer was here.
2016, you had 1,209 yeses, 651 noes, so 65% passed a $1.2 million maintenance and school.
Was there one before that?
Yeah.
I'm probably thinking even before that.
Yeah, it would have been when Steve Weimer was
And
here.
then there was one in 07.
What about like 07? I think that's the one I'm
And that
thinking
was
of. Yeah.
Public utilities, or what's PU? PU for 10 years?
Is that a operating?
What? $573.70
Yeah,
slash
it's an
PU.
operating
Yeah.
PU units. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
When's that current operating one due? Or for
We
renewal?
renewed in, I want to say 2000, I might get my years mixed up, 2016. So 2026, now it's at $24 per PU.
Oh. Unless you want to try to increase it.
I think that's, yeah.
You have to wait 2026?
No, we could renew and no, you can do that anytime. You rescind it and renew it anytime you want. And you're really not gambling anything. It's $24 per kid. It's $10,000 for the district.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you could do that anytime. But with the tax impact is greater on the local with that compared to the capital projects. But that is an option to generate some revenue.
Well, because it looks like for a while there you were thinking about a third ballot question
Yep,
that would have been, and then
yep, we were
dropped
looking
that.
at the operating, and we did a comparison on the tax impact of those, so. But that is an option. It'd be a lot easier on messaging, because the operating is classrooms and general fund directly. But
I think to answer your, my thought on your question, Gary, is, what are we hearing, after this didn't pass, I think is answered in the Donovan story that you went over kind of the four main issues, you know, regarding the belief of the past fiscal management being somewhat poor, not understanding the, you know, itemized list, if you will, of the proposed use of funds, and not having, I mean, my summarization note is not having much faith in the school board at the time. And then the concern about taxes. I mean, I think that the study does address it. So I look at this list and I say, well, what can we control in here, right? We can do our best to ensure that we have, you know, proper fiscal management, right? We can provide the community, we can give, I mean, you said before that there was some version of a list. Might have been confusion by the list because of the, you know, the initial kind of thing you put together and things get weeded out. There's been change within the school board. One thing we really can't control, you know, is the taxes, except for we can adjust the amount. So, I think we look at each one of those questions within the study, and we focus on each one as the board and say, what can we do on this topic? And how can we incorporate the community into this topic? And we just address those 4 points. I don't know if there's, you know, I don't think it's more complicated than that. I didn't hear much concern about the taxes. That wasn't typically the primary concern for me about, well, can't do this because I can't afford it.
Right, and they don't look that bad, and I'm not being frivolous about your taxpayers' money, I mean, compared to what you see in a lot of districts,
And that goes
even
back
your size, yeah.
And I remember previously, either Boyd or Jeff, our school, we're way behind, I guess, however you want to put it. We're way behind as far as receiving bonds or levies, right, compared to other school districts. Very much so.
Yeah,
We're
Yeah.
the second lowest as far
Where's
as
that chart?
total tax impact, we're the second lowest.
And so our proposed levy and bond, where does that put us for the second lowest now? Where would that put us within there?
I think we'd still be the second lowest.
Yeah,
But
I
it's
have
higher.
that somewhere, that was,
Because we were at 24, the next ones were at like 300 and some. And I think even with this, we would still be below, and then I think those school districts also have since raised, had referendums passed. I think we'd still be second place. And I think we were below 3.
we would have been the lowest, but when they closed the industry.
yeah, this is the Ayler's chart showing
Yeah,
your comparison, and
this
you're,
was that was.
I remember
you're barely a
I remember
speck.
this being up here, I think.
Yeah,
And so this is the $24 per pupil. that we
Yeah.
talked about before.
There's
Yeah.
another one.
Rose
might
was
not be
at
in there.
227.
and there's another
Commercials at
page with the
707.
bond one, I don't know if it's forward or backward one. So what about the change in board members? Is that the ones that have come on, are they generally supportive of this, or overwhelmingly, or?
Most of them right here.
Okay,
I think I had a different
Yeah.
experience, or at least from Kayla. I thought the information mailings, what was addressed to the community was actually pretty accessible. I mean, I know my mailbox was I bet I got 5 of them.
yeah, there were a lot of
4 or 5
them.
I don't think that was the issue. I think I did see some signs, in yards, and I think it came down to, I guess the consensus I gathered was people just flat out didn't support it. And until they saw a change, that's what they stayed firm on. And I think the survey hit it pretty accurately.
I agree with everything you're saying with the survey and those little landmines that you called about that kind of reached out and grabbed us. That into the track? Why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? And I think there was some miscommunication and or it was like on Facebook or those
Yeah.
kind of, and people fed into that. And that's where
They
people were
do.
talking to each other about these different things where,
Yeah.
nobody that has talked to me and or wants anything to fail here at all.
And if I can, just to be clear, I don't blame the people for misunderstanding
No, not at all.
about the track thing and the football field, because I do think we do need to do a better job of getting an itemized list and talking about, as after discussion between maintenance, school board, facilities, superintendent, and deciding triage what in this building is priority number one, and that cost. Priority number two, I think we do have to do better about conveying to the community, here's where it's going to go on day
Right,
one.
that's the dots.
And here's, yep, and I think, and money left over, we get down lower, we can start to, make decisions here and there, and, but we do have to have some kind of an itemized list, and I think we need to be more transparent with the cost of that. And clearly, we put a quote in today, it's gonna be higher tomorrow, because that's the.
You're right.
And then, you look at this chart, I guess, I don't wanna create more issue here, but what we're asking for, is it enough?
Probably not.
That's,
We have two
So-
problems. We have the facilities, the buildings, the roof, the windows, and protecting. And then we have lagging state funding, like $1,800 per pupil because of inflation. And part of the reason we went with the technology, the capital projects levy, because those are, when we buy computers and we buy buses, that comes out of the general fund. So if we can do capital projects levy, those dollars that are in the general fund can go to classrooms, small classes, teachers, that type of thing. And then the public knows that those dollars are not necessarily going for increased salaries, but it's gonna buy a bus that we need to be buying almost every year, because we have almost 300,000 miles a year that we put on transportation. And then technology's got to be a huge expense. So those are the two things that, and we didn't do a good enough job to connect the dot that buying this bus with these dollars, that $100,000, that's keeping an extra teacher in the classroom to keep class sizes smaller.
Right. I think it's an overused phrase sometimes, but that messaging is so important, is how do we show the bucket of money, where their money is going into that bucket, and what that bucket drips out to, what gets spit out.
well, and the question, I haven't been on the board very long, and so these are a lot of questions I'm playing catch up too.
Yeah.
Is the money that we're looking for, how do we know, and who said, how do we decide that was the right amount to be asking for? How does the community know? Do I understand, do I know as a board member that amount isn't just something we just kind of threw on the wall to see if it would stick?
The survey
Because
should
we
have,
felt it was gonna be, way more than enough, or, how do we come up with that amount?
The building was the engineering.
Well, I think that's where we gotta come into play,
yeah.
figuring
sorry,
the right
what?
amount.
What'd you say?
Well,
Oh, go ahead,
I'll give
whoever's got the
him-
answer, I guess, yeah.
The answer would be to have better detailed cost budgets for the line item components developed by Kraus Anderson, or your construction manager.
to answer your question directly, though, we had an engineering go through and we had the estimates for the replacement costs and everything. So, they were real numbers. Nothing was fabricated.
Yeah, there was a study.
I think to add to what you're saying is, who came up with, we need to fix the roof, or we need to replace the carpet, or we need to replace that door?
We had an assessment. We had
An engineering firm.
engineers come in,
I remember,
Yep.
yep, I remember that.
and they did a survey of the facilities and did a walk around, and
Do you remember on that facility condition assessment, did you siphon out just the critical components or?
Yeah, it was a limited.
Yeah, you didn't do everything they
We didn't do
recommend.
everything, we said, these
So
are the key areas.
that's typical.
Yeah.
So you take your critical and maybe high nervous, next nervous file.
Yeah.
And that comes up with, excuse me, 4 million or whatever that number is. But the survey will tell you what your tax tolerance is. So if, and I'll just make this up, if $4 million is your scope and your tax tolerance is only at $2 million, you have to reduce scope. You're not going to convince the public that you need $2 million. The opposite can be true. If you're at 4 million and your tax tolerance is
But
at
then you better
8
show
million,
them what you're not doing,
right?
because they're
And now it's in their
forcing
memory.
you to do less.
Yeah,
What I'd be interested in knowing is how, because the football field and all that was only brought up once. And I don't know if it made it into the newspaper or what, but that stuff, like, we had never even considered it.
Well, we
There
did
was-
have some discussion
There
when,
was-
when WITSEF came out, because it was included
If
with that.
we looked at it,
We looked at it,
but that's what they
and we
remember.
put it in the review and comment,
yeah,
Right.
because we were on a deadline. The review and comment had to be in by a certain date.
Right.
Fortunately, it was before the board had really
Right.
ciphered on what
So
it was gonna do.
That ship sailed.
Yep. So it was
Yeah.
a timing thing.
so whatever you put in the first time is what everyone's gonna remember. That's my takeaway from that.
Gary, in your years of doing this, on a failed referendum that had a survey, is it common to do a survey after a survey?
Well, if you think you don't know what happened, you could do another survey, like a postmortem now, but I mean, that's somewhat expensive, or as I suggest, you could do listening sessions. If you think your public would come a couple different nights and speak their mind, but maybe they don't, do something like that. I don't know, maybe only 5 people would show up. What would be valuable to get feedback?
Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't want to speak for everyone, but I don't think I don't think the community has made it a mystery as to some of their concerns. Yeah, anyone that's listening here, please share with friends and family. We're always open for a listening session, so people can reach out to us at any point in time if they could hear back from folks. And, people are going to get tired of hearing me say that, but I mean it. My thought is,
Could the
I don't
district,
see it necessary to go and redo another survey at this point in time.
Yeah.
could the district do a survey, or a survey monkey, or would they respond to that, or even a letter to households?
Yeah, I just don't know. I mean, I kind of asked it as a baited question because there is a little bit of survey fatigue sometimes where, oh, another one, they don't even respond to it.
And
you
we
know.
had, what, 178 respondents, do you remember?
You remember how many respondents we got back?
On theirs,
From the
Donovan's?
Donovan?
It's 178.
No, it probably says in there.
Oh, on there, on
Heck, on the
Naylor's?
second
Yeah,
sheet of the survey's in there.
And
I'll try to find it.
that
Yeah.
was the online one, right? Where you got the
Online.
link and.
Is that about 10% of everyone who voted? Or was there?
there's a point of no return in surveys, and I forget what they call that statistic, but as soon as you get up and over, was it 400 people? The statistics won't change.
Total of 278 respondents.
400 or 40 or
278
What did I
4%.
say?
completed the survey.
Oh, it's 100 off.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
That was close.
you got the 78.
yeah.
I don't, the campaigning and the mailings and leading up to the question about what did that actually cost the school? Do we have a ballpark of,
The survey?
because that's what we'd be looking at doing again, correct?
Well, yeah, I mean, we actually wouldn't do a survey. You'd have a third-party company do a
Right, but I mean,
survey.
there's a cost associated with.
There's a
putting on
survey
the ballot.
cost. Yep.
I want to say,
I don't think they want to see
15,000.
this again, your public.
You're probably not.
I think we know enough about what happened. I don't know.
Well, that's
Yeah.
my, I mean, I don't think think it's a secret of why we didn't have support.
Right.
Exactly if, I don't think we need to beat around the bush about it. And now do we spend another $10,000-$15,000?
I would take that money
Yes.
and spend it elsewhere. I would, on the messaging,
If that hasn't changed, do we spend another $15,000?
yeah, go with the information we got, your gut feel, your local intel, and then if you had the money, then we spend that on different messaging activities. One that we were really successful on in Roseau was a video. There, it was insanely, it was insanely good.
Yeah, it was, I saw that they were doing a referendum over in Roseau, when, at a volleyball game. And not at a volleyball game, but I was there for a volleyball game, and a lot of people from the community were there. And, a lot of attraction on that, and then they had this video playing of the different things that they needed.
And there's always kids in the video. It's kids running around, kids studying, and it just pulls on their heartstrings. It's very powerful. That comes with a cost. The good news is the gal that ran that video, she works for us. We hired her.
Okay.
She left that company and came to us. So we've got that kind of a in-house. Jenna, she's awesome with it. But rather than go double dip on a survey, if you were going to spend some more money to do some marketing, that's one avenue. Then you got social media, you've got flyers and what have you.
I'm getting the exact same result.
Well, I don't think we approach it in the exact same way as far as pretty much getting the same virtual mailers in the mailbox, getting 3 to 4. And, there was an outreach as far as the flyers in the mailbox. I think for a while it seemed like every week somebody from the board was crafting a newspaper article, or if it wasn't
Right.
in a letter to the editor. So, I think it was out there.
The intangible, though,
Yeah,
is November 5th was a presidential election, and it was going against you. Every single voter came out of the woodwork.
Several
If they don't know, they
several
don't know.
issues.
Yeah.
They were bigger than the speed bumps.
Am I correct if they did not vote, it was considered a no vote? Or am I wrong on that?
You're wrong.
Am I wrong?
It doesn't count as a vote if there's no vote. It's either a yes or
Oh,
a
you mean
no.
a ballot where they didn't check it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just a non-responsive.
Oh, okay, I was thinking of the, now they don't put up for the state, the funding for the DNR. I'm gonna continue to go off topic if you let me. It was gonna drive me nuts because I think one of them was, but somebody at home was thinking like, yeah, I always talk
But
about.
no, that wasn't the case with this.
Okay,
With the engineering group that did the analysis for the school, is that still valid?
How old is it?
I have no idea.
I would want us to look it over. That's the other thing, costs keep going
I
up.
can't imagine.
Or is there a blanket,
Another year
like,
later.
5-10% that we can expect on top of that previous assessment, you say?
Oh.
Well, we did that with the question because of the timing. We added, I can't remember what the percentage was because of the inflation.
Sure.
It just says 2023.
If we have a spreadsheet with all of the line items from 2023, let's say, we can put a cost escalator on and tell you as a rough number what it's going to be in 26, 27, 28, 20, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But what we have to do is we have to get our eyeballs on it because an engineer and an architect have a different viewpoint than a construction manager. We deal with the subcontractors directly. They're using Modelogics, which is a software that estimates things. It isn't real live. When we put a price together on a facility condition assessment, it's based on real live time data on what we just did in Roseau, what we just did in Bemidji, what we just did in I Falls, and we've got that info, so the estimate's a little bit tighter.
I would say that would be very good information for us to have going forward, so that we can, this is what it is, and this is what it's going for, like you said.
Yeah, and it might be spot on, that, I think the intangibles here that you're fighting on, it's no secret. You went up against a presidential election, you had messaging that was mixed, and we can do better as a group if everybody really grinds this out. And you gotta get a yes committee. You gotta have a really strong local flavor, a couple of people running the campaign and making sure that, when we did Marshall County, we called every single yes voter that we identified. Every single one. And we had 17 people in the room on 3 different nights. And we pick up the phone, you got a list from the state of Minnesota that says, Joe Blow, hi Joe, this is Tracy, I'm a volunteer with the yes committee here at Lake of the Woods School. Could you share with me or do you know about the vote coming up? Yes. Could you share with me how you're gonna vote? I plan on voting no. Thank you very much, have a good night. We identified a no voter. Don't want to ever talk to them, don't want to inform them, don't want to send them one email. Now we have to get to the yes guys. Once we find the yeses, we identify that yes person and we remind them the night before election with a follow-up call. It's just, we need 50% plus 1. That's all we need.
And that proved to be successful.
We won by 11 votes because we called.
Because
Yeah.
you look at polls, especially in the presidential election, far off.
Yeah, yeah. Polls are one thing, but when you're talking directly to somebody and they say, yes, I'm gonna vote yes, that's a pretty good, it's not, you're not taking a voter sample of 1,000 people and extrapolating it across the population. We just talked to 137 people and 99 said yes. Okay, we're gonna get those voters to the poll.
So this wasn't a strategy to try to get on the phone and if somebody said, I'm gonna vote no, to try to convince them.
Never convince them. You're gonna go down a path that is unwinnable. We have to, there's 50% plus 1 voters in your district right now that'll vote for this. We have to find them. That's the whole strategy. And you can sit and try to convince the people, your neighbors and everything else around the fire and all that kind of stuff. But when you're trying to get them right up to the wire, when they got there, because this is a mail-in district, right?
It won't be for the special.
Oh, that's right, because it's a November so you're gonna have a really low voter turnout. We just have to identify, we can outwork the no's. That's what you have to have, that mentality. That's why the yes committee is so important. So what we had in Roseau was 2 teachers. What we had in Marshall was a teacher and a really strong farmer in the community. The relationships that they have, and that we identified the yes voters and they just started calling. It's just old school. There's no science to it other than, can you tell me how you're gonna vote? Really? If they want more information, sure, you're not gonna be a jerk to them. But you gotta get off the phone and get to the yeses and identify. Great, now we know who's, and as soon as you look at it, we can tell from the state registration, right, how many voters voted and yes?
Yeah.
We can get that list, and once we're at 50% plus 1, work a little bit harder and get to 60%, and that's your buffer.
Yeah.
Your strategy is interesting. I mean, because where you learn the most right now, what we're trying to figure out is why we have no's.
Right.
I mean, that's what we're looking to
Now
focus on,
Right.
the issues that we have, because those are
Right.
being pursued as a real issue.
But the
I mean,
intangible there
I-
was that everybody, there's so many
What
people that came
percentage of
out.
the folks turned out to vote in Lake Woods County this last election?
We had a lot.
We had that
We're
number.
typically one of the highest voting
Yeah,
turnouts in the county. Yeah.
I think I had that somewhere.
And it might take too long to figure out now, but
Yeah.
I'm just kind of curious later on.
You're gonna have a
Maybe
really
I'll have some
low,
homework.
this will be a low,
There's the numbers.
It would be
My
interesting, like
question, yes and no.
in past years, during the off-year elections, how many folks turned out. I don't know.
I have a list of that.
you had 42% yes, and so there was 2,000 votes cast on or yes and no, so that 840.
2,000.
2,000
Cast.
votes.
What are there, 3,800 people in our county that includes children? So pretty much,
If you look back at all of
dang
our
near all adults
previous,
came out.
It was super nuts.
Yeah.
if you look back at all of our previous, I think the top number total was 1,200
Great.
people that actually voted in
Well,
previous years.
it sounds that way. So
So-
with this next
election, the next election or whatever, there's not mail-in ballots.
No, you have to show
They
up
can
in
get
person.
absentee
Which is why it'll be
ballots.
low. Yeah. So how important it is to identify the yesers if there's a low turnout. Everyone you get, they have to get one to match. When I say they, if there's a no vote group. They're not gonna be organized though.
And I believe, I'm correct that you actually have to go to the courthouse for that. You won't be able to vote at the city. Everyone has to go to.
We have one
One-
designated
Yep.
polling spot.
Yeah.
Which will be the
That's the
government center.
courthouse.
That helps too.
Yep.
But absentee ballots, they can get those at the beginning.
Sure.
Yeah, and, yeah, I mean, if we're, as a board, going to be pro-referendum, and we're gonna be looking to put this on in November, I think, for me personally, for the school, we gotta strategize and find ways to find those yes votes to get passed.
Right.
I think we gotta be careful and not be dismissive about those folks that voted no in the last time and addressing their concerns.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
because,
No, they're still taxpayers, they're still members of the community, and I don't wanna come off as being cold on a
No,
no,
we're starting over.
but we're starting over.
When we start over, if you identify it and there's still no, then I guess we leave them. But
Yeah.
you're right,
Also,
there
stay
may,
transparent, because
Kayla, you got something, Kayla?
I do. I just didn't want to interrupt.
You're good. Oh,
I
that's
had a
all
quick-
hand.
Raising our hand.
Sorry. I just had a quick question about the polling place options. Is that something that cannot be changed? Is that that's a rule? I worked in a previous school district where people could come in and vote at the school. And each of the district staff was trained to do that process. So I just wanted to ask that question.
So,
they can do early voting at the school,
Okay.
I bet.
we passed
Or
a
get-
resolution for designated polling places for special elections, which is the courthouse. And we'd
That
write a
supersedes?
contract, yeah.
I'm just thinking of accessibility for people and how large our county
You'd
is.
have to redo that resolution, would be my guess. Because you have
Okay.
to, it's a formal resolution, and there's a certain date you have to do it.
Okay.
So-
I was just thinking of
Yeah.
previous experience on how people came into the school. So that was all.
Yep. Because we've had them years and years ago. We had one that was here. Oh, I think it was on the pool maybe. But that could be something, you run that resolution, but it wouldn't be good for this year.
Right.
'Cause it passed the-
Gary, is it possible to get the voter analysis from the last election by district? And find out which district was yes and which one was no, or not?
You know,
We
on the
have
state,
that.
we have that.
We have that in the, when we canvass the election, we have numbers, it's not a list of.
But
It's just a
will it
number.
say 42% in this district
Yep.
voted yes?
Each,
Yes,
each
number of
So,
precinct,
real quick, in your 5 districts, we could take a look at it and find out what was the top yes vote. And if we did the calculation, how many potential voters are in there, the strategy, spend a little bit of money there, time and effort, get the right people in that district and relationships. It's just like you see on TV, it's just strategy to get the people out to vote.
I want to say there was only one district on one of them where it passed, or where it was more than 50% of one of them, right?
One district passed and one district was a hell no.
oh,
Yeah,
Right.
and the one that, I want to say the one that passed, it wasn't both, it was a vote for passing. I want to say the infrastructure, right? But yeah, though, I remember they read off the numbers at one of the meetings here,
Yeah.
and it was interesting.
Is it a foregone conclusion with the existing new board that the referendum will happen in November? Is that
Will happen, meaning going to.
you're gonna do a referendum in November?
I think it would be crazy not.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'm just saying that there's no discussion that we're throwing that referendum out, we're waiting until, you're going to do something in November. So we got that bridge crossed. What other?
At least consensus on it.
Consensus, yeah,
They don't have to take action on it yet, but
right. Do they have to take action before we send anything to review and comment?
yes,
So that review and comment would go out in
June 17th.
June, say, so
By
when's your
June
board
17th,
meetings?
You've gotta be able to
So
agree on
May.
a scope and a dollar amount.
27th is our next.
It's our
So-
next one, but
But if June 17th is not the 4th, so you'd have to, in May board meeting, you'd have to be locked and loaded to send. And then you back it up, now you're in April, so our timing is really crucial on getting going.
do you have any feedback on that, Jeff, as far as timing, if, I mean, it's
Well, I think-
doable, right? It's-
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because
We're in
I don't think we
February,
have to
March and
start
April board.
with the original WITSEF. Because we've had the discussions previous that I could bring to the new board that focused on because we had several meetings where we talked about, well, we're not gonna do the track, we're not gonna do football. So I have that I can pull out. And then you guys can take a look at just those things, and it's like 6 things of, it's the roof and windows and
Concrete.
pointing, the flooring. They might want to revisit the traffic flow, because that was a big, that might be one that could wait. I don't know, as far as, because it's not critical as much as we have windows that are rotting out and the roof is going to start leaking, and
Yeah,
those are the
I
critical
think it should be
ones.
I think it'd be appropriate to have it on the list,
Yep.
but then again, the community, I think, thinks, here's our hierarchy, here's the
Yep.
project that we're going to be focused on first.
Yep.
And
So I think, unless the board has other things in there that want to be added, I think the previous board kind of narrowed it down.
Yep.
And I would recommend taking a look at the whole thing. But I think you're going to come to the same conclusion that these are the must-dos.
What are the critical items?
Yeah.
I think that would be a good event to do with the new board. And if we
Because
come
you only
to the
had
same-
one, right? One board meeting with the new board?
this
Two?
is- Well, this is, yeah, we could be the third.
Third already.
So,
So it'd be good to do it and then show the public that we're diligent about looking through this and, making sure that we're going to them with the right items.
I think you're
So
going to want to do a special meeting in early March.
Have
So
two
at-
that month.
So at the March meeting, where the ball is rolling, so that,
Is it possible to, that hierarchy list about, that kind of the board had decided on before, was that with input from outside, who actually kind of
that
wrote
was
that list?
the people at Seth, because that
Okay,
was
so-
part of the conversation when they presented that whole packet is, what do you think are the most critical ones? And
Yeah, I'm sure it's a
You're-
spreadsheet. I haven't looked at it, but I'm sure it's a spreadsheet with one of the columns that gives a criticality. And if it's critical or number 10, the lights are flashing.
Is it,
Whatever it is, they put that in the column.
is it possible at our next board meeting, just for at least, for you to have
On
that?
Monday?
No, not Monday, or,
Monday's
just to
the next
hand
one.
it out,
Okay.
just so we have time to look at it. I'm not saying
I can-
for this,
I could probably pull up the old one, I can dig up the old
Yeah.
one, yeah, I can look for that.
You just want that information for us, just put an email.
Do
it
we
out
have
to us.
yeah, no, it's
Oh,
just
yeah.
so I can
Would
look
okay.
at it.
support? Yeah.
I thought you meant presented at the board
No,
meeting.
no, I just wanna look at it. I wanna
Yes,
look at it.
yep,
Start looking
I'll
at
do
it.
some digging, I just gotta.
We have
figure
the
out-
Widseth report, and Gary's analyzed that, but we just haven't grinded it out into 2027, or the year we 25.
And I think going through the motions of that is gonna help with the lack of school board trust. And, that we're doing our due diligence to make sure that we're going down the right path.
Has there been any of those issues addressed or taken off the list that the school has fixed? No.
Good point, though. I mean, it would be good to demonstrate that if we had, or if they were so urgent you couldn't
Or has it
wait.
gotten worse?
Well, that was my other thing. Is there anything else that, from being here, that needs to be added or, that comes to mind? I mean,
No, there's nothing new that I can think of.
Biggest one in my mind, windows, roof, and bricks. Those are,
And sidewalk.
even the sidewalk, I'd be
I
willing
mean,
to kick
there's-
that can, but
yeah.
the windows, roof, and the bricks need to get addressed, and that's stuff that you don't see. The sidewalks, at least you can see, and then hopefully we can get others, we would have support for that. But those other three, people don't really understand that, yeah, these are really bad, we need to address this now before it gets worse, especially, again, in my mind, the bricks. Because nobody pays any attention to
the
it until
expansion
things fall apart.
joints, they're 3/8 inch wide that are missing the caulking, the sealant in there. It's not good.
We can
We
massage
get a wet
that.
year and it freezes in there and the fascia is just gonna come off the whole building. We're in a lot of trouble.
You said windows, bricks, and roof, right?
Yep.
So see how the messaging starts to be real easy? Your elevator pitch, when somebody asks you, what are you spending my $4 million on? If you just say windows, roof, and bricks. Okay, at least and whoever's out there in their community trying to get that message out, that's the song they can sing. Everybody can sing the same song. It gets super complicated if you go, yeah, we're gonna be doing tuck pointing because the expansion joints need this and blah, blah, blah. You get technical and you lost them. We gotta keep it super simple. Tell your story, tell it the same, tell it often.
And then the next tier down would be, in addition to sidewalks, hopefully we can get different funding for that. But then it would be, like the boiler and stuff, I mean, those things are 30 years old. It's like, good thing we've got mechanical guys who know what they're doing to keep that thing going, and all the other things.
And I would,
Yeah, in the time.
So
You really
in
want
that,
that.
in taking that boiler thing a step further, I think that's more important than what people think, is because if that boiler, or if our heating infrastructure went out when it was 30 below,
Huge and really expensive.
all the pipes, the fire system that's, I don't know if this is full of water or if we're gonna pump into them or if they're dry lines or not. But if they're full of water, it'll flood the whole school.
Yeah.
It'll turn on and it won't stop pumping until either your pump is destroyed or you shut it off.
we had that happen
Which
in
is
the
harder to
greenhouse a
do.
few years ago.
Hmm?
We had that happen in the greenhouse a few years ago. Pipes froze and burst.
So, and those are things that people don't know.
So my next step will be to gather that information that we kind of went over first time and just catch it and send it out. And
Yeah,
We had the tour on those, I think Craig
Yep.
was on the boiler one, and so,
Yeah, the
and I
inside.
think Woody wrote about it, but, yeah, I don't know how to get across anymore, that, yeah, look, we can't kick this can down the road, because
Right.
bad things will really happen if you have to fix it in an emergency. It'll be 5 times as expensive as now.
Well, and I think, I was here for that facilities walkthrough, and And when you think about, you know, you drive outside the building looks beautiful, right? And, but when you go up to, once the windows issues is pointed out, and you go to the window and you move it in and out, specifically, it's worse, you know, on the prevailing wind side, the west side. Yeah, it's not a luxury for new windows with some of them. Some of them absolutely need to be replaced. And if it was my home or your home, it would have been replaced.
Just your heat loss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're physically moving, so. And so that's part of the thing too, is when we talk about, well, we need to replace the windows. Well, I think we need to somehow, you know, I don't know, can we have to have more than just that? We need to replace the windows because, you know, they're old.
Yeah.
It's,
Energy, you can go into the energy savings and, you know, we'll craft a message in two different paths and you guys can decide which way you
Well,
want
that's
to
why
go.
I said personalize the message
Yeah.
so it
That
hits
would
home.
be, that might be where the video comes into play too, is to actually show the community that.
It's just rock
this is what
solid.
we're doing.
'cause if you,
And the little kids pointing next to the broken whatever,
Yeah.
it's just, it tugs on their heartstrings and they see it. People are visual and then that could be all over social media. They're not cheap, but it's how you win.
looking at our agenda here, do we, we've kind of cruised through almost all of these points.
I think
Yeah.
so.
So what further questions do you guys have for us at this point?
Mine's really not a question. I was like, we needed to have this to understand direction. You know, we didn't know if with 3 or 4 new board members, if there was going to be any discussion about postponing, let's put the square wheels on, or if we go. So now that we understand that it's in November, we can work backwards from that date. Gary's a master at doing that. I think that if we go back and we send you a document that says, here's the timeline of things that are going to happen, here's what you do, here's what we do.
Well, we can start fleshing this out,
And yeah,
colored.
and he's already got a great start to it.
I left a lot of blanks.
Yep.
because-
And we can, now that we have, you know, a stake in the ground, we can work backwards.
I mean, the biggest question I have right now, and, you know, I'm no financial, you know, expert on this, and so I'm looking to be educated, is, you know, the decision we have is, are we interested in the same levies at the same amounts? Are we looking to add a third or take one of them away? I mean, those are kind of like the big decisions I feel like we need to come to and decide as a board, and then have argument and a reason that's valid, and we articulate to the community as to why we're making those decisions, and then we move forward. So.
Don't we
that's-
got to put a number?
I think we need to talk to Matthew at Ayler's too and
Yeah.
get their take, the financial advisor, on it. And he knows we're meeting tonight. I told him not to come up here tonight, but I said,
Yeah.
we'll be talking to you right afterwards about, you know, what if we go back and relook at this, you know, are these really, do we need a bond and a levy question, or is there a way to simplify that and have it be more one question?
Yep, I had the same conversation. I think
Yeah.
there's a way, if you go with the capital projects levy, you can build that into
One question.
one question.
Is there, you got a big pile of LTFM dollars hidden somewhere?
A big pile, nobody does.
No,
I had to ask.
And I don't know, just
$103 a year.
103?
to touch base on that question is, I mean, not like we're making a formal decision here, but any survey, I don't see a point in going forward with any additional survey. And
Yeah, I
and it's
agree.
not that we aren't interested in hearing what people gotta say, I think we have a good understanding what people are saying, and folks can know how to reach out to us, so.
Because we're still entertaining the technology.
Well, that's what.
Well, I think that's
my
a good
point
discussion
is
because
we gotta figure out.
You got to define scope,
we need to
and it's
increase our
hard to do that until you
general
know what it costs,
fund balance.
Yeah.
somehow.
right? So if you put you back up, that's where we got to work backwards, is that once we get the analysis done and we can put a cost to it, and I'll just be goofy, let's say it comes in at 6 million and you only have 4 million tax tolerance, we got a $2 million cut somewhere. That, we don't know that yet until we get that fleshed out. Then you can make good decisions as a school board.
That makes sense.
But they'll know how urgent the technology is.
Right.
In the district, they'll know.
Right.
Well, right now, we're not buying buses and we're not buying computers,
Right.
because we don't have enough revenue, we don't have enough.
And see, if I had the camera on you and we're doing the video and the public hears that, that's a strong and powerful message that we're not doing this. Well, if your kid is sitting out there 30 miles away from school, 50 miles away from school, and they got an inferior bus, damn thing's gonna break down. I mean, that's how we have to sell it. There's a reason to, we're not doing this because we want the Taj Mahal. These are maintenance items. We gotta sell that.
Well, I just brought up the technology because I'm sure the help that's changed so quickly, computers is all of them. But one of the questions, I don't know how if that's common or not, but if like department heads or something, one of the questions that I had heard was, just, where is IT digesting any of this needs of our in previous meetings? You know, we have an IT department, we have a head of IT department, and when did they ever come and display, this is where we're sitting with computers, this is where we're sitting with printers and all this.
Well, you'd send out reports. We've had those.
I know,
but then again, that's coming from the board.
Yeah.
Trust doesn't exist. They wanted to see, and that was the question that was in the community. We have someone from IT, will you tell us about technology, because that's what we're supposed to be dealing with.
So you're saying like video him,
Sure.
that kind of thing? And saying, hey, I've got a need for
Or maybe
440,
have him come and
Part
all
of
the
it too
needs
is to
are
come in
recorded.
and present
to the board.
and saying,
Right.
here's where
Yeah.
we're sitting on our tech, so that, we can continue to get involved and understand what they're up against.
It's not
Right.
just our word.
Yeah, you're hearing it from the guy that's in the trenches, yeah. He might say, hey, we have 440 students, I only have 200 laptops, and they're sharing. Whatever the story is, you heard it from somebody else other than you guys.
Well, heard from someone that we're entrusting to
Yeah. It's a good point.
be knowing about it in the school.
Yeah.
By the way, where's staff in all of this? And what kind of support do you think they had behind it or not behind it?
I think we had a lot of support with the staff. I guess.
All
I'm not
teachers.
honest.
From what you
I
know,
think we did.
okay, they weren't out there bad mouthing or saying they're not doing the right stuff.
I don't know.
Okay,
That's it, I mean, there's the survey went out, but we don't know what percentage of those 278, well, maybe a small percentage. What my point is some of the feedback, how much of that feedback that was more negative spirited was from staff, and where did that come from, right?
They broke
it down
they broke
with
it out.
connections to school.
Yeah, of the respondents who worked for the school and who didn't,
But-
so that's actually
Yeah.
broken out.
And they also probably had to answer the question honestly, whether or not they're affiliated with the school, right?
Yeah, that's all.
Well, I
you
think
can
it
do.
was a little broader. I think it was people that had connections, whether it was an
Yeah.
employee, a parent, a grandparent.
Wow, this is one of the third or fourth biggest employers in the county. And
It was like
3,800 people. It's a small community.
Yeah,
50 to
well,
80 people fell into
Whatever the hot topic
that
is.
non-associated category.
everybody knows.
Well, and that's
I missed what you
is
said.
associated with the school as well.
Yeah.
You said what?
It was, as memory serves, it was like 50 to 80 people fell into that category out of the 200 and some. So those were actually the ones that we looked at closer than the other ones, when we were going over stuff.
So if it was 80, it'd be a third.
Yeah.
278.
Well, I thought you meant the whole staff of the school. It was not like this.
And I don't even know if it was 80, I think it was less than that, but we'll call it 80 for purposes.
Right.
So I guess my thought is I don't know the answer to your question. No.
okay.
I mean, but it's a good point, because the people who are and can be most passionate about this are the people who are most directly affected, and that can be, especially with technology, the infrastructure, if they're dealing with a leak in the roof in their classroom, having to listen to a rip.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
not saying there are classrooms with buckets, it's winter, so we don't know yet, right?
But we have
So-
80% support on the survey, saying that they acknowledge that we was.
Right. And that's the
That's
number you
what I'm
gotta
saying.
keep, yeah. What about the,
And you've had the vote, they're gonna expect you to come back, so let's do it.
right, exactly. The conversation needs to start happening amongst you guys too about identifying those two people that can both be staff. I think they can be staff on the yes group, right? They just can't be board members for a yes committee.
Yeah,
Advocate,
staff can be on a yes
Staff.
committee.
Board members
I don't know.
can, but you gotta be really.
Board members
what-
can be
You,
if you're
you
I
careful.
can't.
You can't. So I think, Rosa, we had 2 teachers, but, and I'll just make up a number. If it's 25 people that they can get, and they all call 10 people,
Yeah.
that's how this works. So we need to have 2 really strong advocates that are gonna make every single meeting, good note takers, not afraid to carry the ball and run. We'll give them all the ammo and help them, but that's how elections are won. It's just grassroots. So think about those. You
And
know,
this
you're
is
probably
next-
thinking
this
about a
is next
teacher.
September.
Yeah. But if we can identify them early and get them trained in about what this is all about, it's usually when we have listening sessions and there's a group of people, we can identify, I can almost pick out the person who it's gonna be just by the ones that are asking questions. So when you have those sessions, we can, but you can start thinking about some really strong, the last 4 I've been on have been all females. They're really good at it.
I think we lost.
Robin's gone. So we got our agenda to update. We'll get that to these guys. And then we'll have to figure out next meeting on our work session or. And as long as you guys are okay with it, I don't have any trouble doing virtual as long as you got good. Gary's got a long drive.
Yeah.
And if we can keep him on the virtual and our team down there, we can be efficient with our time and.
Absolutely.
The only thing that I'm just speaking from prior to being board member when I used to be here, when the presentations here was really, really important. And, you know, the show and tell pieces are up here. You can't see it when you're in here, and you can't
No,
see it
you're
when
right.
you're watching from home on the camera.
Do you have to have it in this room?
This is the
You have
best
to try to
room.
send it out ahead of time, or
So
how would you?
I know that always led for me as just a member in the community is that disconnect, like I can't see and I can't understand.
Do you have laptops that could be in the field? Everybody could dial in, so you could have a screen.
How is
I don't
that?
think we're speaking for us as board members, so that's what we're saying.
You're talking
No,
about
yep,
for
for
the
community.
public?
You're
Yep.
talking about the community.
Because right now,
Board
folks are
members can email
able
it
to
to
watch
us.
from home and they can't see everything
Just
up here.
kinda
Or
shows
even
up.
if you're further back in the
Oh,
room, it's
so
just not, you can't see.
If I share my screen, the people at home can't see it?
They can
It's
see your
only-
screen, but none of it's legible.
It's only as good as
Oh.
that camera picking it up.
I see. They're not getting this feed. It's coming from that
It's coming from
camera.
the camera.
Right.
all the
So that's
numbers-
technology.
All the numbers and the graphs and everything, it feels like as a community member, you're missing out on all that information. And perhaps that's something we can talk about and explore.
Let me think about that. Why can't we just do a Zoom meeting? Instead of have that camera, just have it be a Zoom meeting.
That would be more of a school thing. But yeah, if we were to host a Zoom meeting, because they can be recorded and saved, right?
Right.
So is the public zooming tonight, or just that board member?
It's live for the
Yep.
public to watch right now.
That camera right there, so
Yeah.
everyone's.
But they can't ask questions?
No.
I mean, I don't know how
They might
would-
be sitting,
okay.
right now, they might be sitting at home,
They can just
just
observe
observing it.
Right.
and
Yeah.
listen.
Well, maybe you could talk to your IT guy about, how to improve that, but because we'll do our best with that. If maybe we send it to Jeff ahead of time, so he's got some documents and maybe print some copies that are gonna be on the screen for everybody.
Here, yeah.
And post
And then
them
they,
on the website.
you know,
You
Well,
can
that's-
do it, but it becomes a bit more like, if you wanna do it live, you'd have to have somebody physically kind of running the show like with computer screens and stuff and switching between. You'd have to have somebody doing that instead of just the passive camera. You'd have to have somebody switch to, okay, now I wanna switch to whatever feed is showing on the
Yeah.
screen.
you got a different scenario here, because that goes to the public. When we do a Zoom, that's just for everybody that's in the room.
Yeah, it's for in the room and then.
So if we provided a public Zoom link,
It would,
would that qualify?
it would, but you would be changing the format to how the school's operating and recording this completely.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, we don't want
Because
to.
I don't want to mess that up.
this is how the school,
Yeah,
is preserved.
yeah,
And
gotcha.
you can-
And it's good to know, because then we can prepare.
We didn't know if there was something really important.
No, but we can
Put
send
on,
that
like,
ahead of
poster
time.
board or
Yeah.
something, and we could have it maybe closer. I just.
Because when it comes to the studies and you're looking at the numbers and,
So I think
the one,
Jeff
when you
posts-
looked at $24 for, per pupil for Lake
Yep.
of the Woods, second lowest, right? And I remember some of that info being presented, and I was sitting back there, couldn't see any of it. So you rely on what people are just saying, and you're not picking everything out.
Right. Transparency is good. We want to make sure that they can see it. If they can't, here's a document, and if they can't see that, we'll provide a Zoom link. Whatever, we're used to it. We'll make it work on your end.
That's not a bad idea, just having that, even just a link to the documents online.
Yeah, because we can mute everybody, so they can't, you can't have somebody hack into your meeting
Might be.
and start screaming, or you have a rooster in the background or something. We can get rid of that. But we'll cross that bridge, I guess. But yeah, start
I'm
identifying
just doing
people.
I'm not trying to be a pain in the butt here, but I'm just trying to find ways so we can be more transparent and make it,
Yeah,
try to make the folks less confused.
Absolutely. You're spot on with your thought.
All right, anybody got
okay.
anything else? Any more questions, anything? Okay.
No, thank you guys for
Call it
coming.
good? Yeah?
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah, thank
All
you,
right.
Casey, Gary, for
Yeah.
coming.
Nice
Yeah.
to see you guys. Nice to meet you.
take care.
All right. See you, Nate.
Safe travels.
All right. I'm not going too far.